Hello, today I'm going to show you how to replace the front struts or shocks on a Freightliner Sprinter, and it'll be the same for the Dodge Sprinters, pretty much any Sprinter with the same body style. And it's a good idea to have a battery charger plugged in while you're doing this, because you're going to be turning the key a lot and having the ignition turned on while you turn the steering wheel. I split up the tools you're going to need into required and recommended tools. You're going to need a jack and a tire iron, 19mm combination wrench, and either a 1-inch combination wrench or a one that goes up, adjustable wrench that goes up to 1 inch, and a 5/16 Allen wrench. It's highly recommended that I highly recommend that you use these tools. Some lube for the bolts in case you haven't done them in a long time. They're going to be really hard to loosen. And then a breaker bar, a ratchet, a 1-inch socket, or the equivalent in millimeters. That I don't have the equivalent in millimeters, so I'm just using a 1-inch. A 19mm socket, an extension for the ratchet, and a jack stand, unless you like being crushed by 7,000-pound vehicles. So to get started, you're going to put the jack underneath the lower control arm, right there in the middle. And jack it up. As soon as you get the tire off the ground, put your jack stand underneath this triangle shaped piece of metal right there, and you can either leave it like that because it'll catch the car if it falls. It's better to have it up against there, but I don't feel like jacking the car anymore, so I'll leave it like that. Next, you're gonna remove the wheel. I forgot to mention that you should loosen the lug nuts just a little bit before you jack the car, but you can also do what I did. And use a piece of wood to press the brakes. That also gives you more safety. It locks the rear wheels so it can't roll backwards while it's lifted. Once you get the tire off, you can look behind here. Here's the strut. You can see that there's 2 bolts holding the strut on. And the same around on the other side, right here and right there. So you're going to loosen those with the breaker bar and the 19mm socket. This is where I was talking about turning the wheel. It'll make it a whole lot easier to access the bolts back here. If you turn the wheel, first to get to these 2 bolts back here, you're going to turn it all the way this way, and then to get to the 2 front ones, you're going to turn it the other way. To make getting at these 2 bolts easier, this one and this one down here, you can pull out this ABS sensor line like that. Once you finish getting those 4 bolts in the front out, you can come in here and take off the tool hatch cover, and that's the top of your strut. You need to take off this bolt, this nut, but this is where your 5/16 Allen wrench comes in. You need to use that. You can't just use a regular socket. Well, sometimes you can, but if you do, it'll start turning this part right here, and you won't go anywhere with it. So what you want to do is you can usually break this one loose with the socket, with the ratchet. Or the breaker bar will be easier. After you've broken that loose, you can try using the ratchet, but chances are you can look underneath the door here and see if it's moving the silver thing. And when it starts to move the silver part, you know you have to start doing the next step, which is using the 1-inch adjustable wrench or combination wrench. And you're going to stick the Allen wrench in the hole like that. And so when you start turning it, the Allen wrench will lock against this part right here, and it'll keep the silver part from turning. That way you can take this nut all the way off. Alright, so once you have that off, you're gonna come around and unscrew these bolts the rest of the way on both sides, and you should be able to do them by hand. Before you loosen those bolts all the way and take them out, you may want to get another jack and put it underneath the hub like this, because it'll make getting the holes aligned on the new strut a lot easier. If you don't put a bottle jack or any jack under there, then the whole hub assembly will kind of tilt down, fall down. It won't damage anything, but it'll be hanging by this ball joint right here on the outer tie rod and the lower ball joint, so it'll just be a pain to get back up into place. Now after you've got all those bolts out, you're just going to push the strut away, and it'll pop off of the this thing right here and go down and rest on the lower control arm. Then you're gonna get something. I just happen to have this icebreaker laying around, and you're gonna stick it up here. It might come out easily, but these are the original struts, and so they haven't been changed since it was out of the factory. So you're gonna stick it up there in that crack, and then just pry it out like that, and then you should be able to compress it really easily and take it out. So now you're gonna put the new strut in like this. There's a hole, and make sure that this part right here with the two holes is on the same side as this ABS line, so you can stick it back in there. Now don't worry about the bottom positioning right now. You just have to put make sure to put this bushing back on from the old one, and you're gonna just pull down on this to compress it. It's easier with two hands. And then don't get your fingers pinched, and just let it up inside there. There. Now you can get those two holes aligned, or 4 holes, and put the bolts back in. The struts on these have a little lip right here that if you lift it up over and hook it on here, the holes will be almost perfectly aligned. Now, once you've got the new strut in and tightened down, you can go back into the inside, put this part back on, and it may look like it's not aligned or it's not right, but once you start tightening it down, it'll pull itself together. And for this This time with the new strut, you shouldn't have to use the Allen wrench and the adjustable wrench. You should be able to do it all the way with a ratchet and socket. As you're tightening this down, it'll be getting tighter, and then you'll come to a point where it'll just stop like this, and it won't move at all. You'll just see that rubber, the rubber bushing. Trying to focus. You'll just see that moving with it. It won't move at all, and that's when you know that it's all the way tight. In case you were wondering, the driver's side strut mount is, you just pull this back and it's right there. So I just stuck this piece, I just folded it back and stuck it under the brake pedal. Now you put the tire back on, take the jack stand out, and lower it. And you're done.